Hi everyone, welcome again to another live question and answer audio event, getting your English to the highest level and where it should be. This event will be recorded and I'm waiting for your questions to try to answer them, perhaps about English grammar, English life here in the UK, and any other questions you might have about the English speaking world. Many of you may already know me, and you'll know that my name is Joseph. You also know that I teach English as a foreign language here on the internet. I'm just looking at my microphone. It doesn't appear very loud, but I think you can all hear me because I can see it's plugged in and waiting to go. But anyway, yeah, I think many of you know me anyway. And so I'll be waiting for your questions that you want to ask me about vocabulary, grammar, life, anything you want to ask about English and the English world. Now, just to get us started, we'll go through some news headlines to give you time to get here and to see what I'm doing. So, this week, of course, in the UK, politics has been quite a big deal, as it usually is. So, we're going to read some news headlines while we're waiting for you to come with your questions. All right. I'm just a little bit worried that my microphone is showing that perhaps you're not hearing me so well. So I don't know why that is, but I'll wait until somebody joins and then you can tell me if you hear me or not. All right. So I suppose the big news story here in the UK today is all about TikTok because it's looking like it's actually going to be made illegal. It's going to be banned in the United States. I don't know if that's really going to happen. There's talk that even if it does, that Donald Trump will immediately bring it back because he's being inaugurated, isn't he, on Monday. So it's a big deal here because many people here work on TikTok in the same way as I'm uploading to YouTube. I also upload to Spotify and some other platforms, but I've never actually used TikTok, so I don't know what that's like. If you're just joining us, this is a live question and answer event for you to ask me any questions you want about English grammar, English life, uh, living here in the UK. Oh, there's Fabio. Hello, Fabio. Hope you're doing well. I just started reading the news headlines, which are kind of dominated by TikTok. So I'm just going through a news story. But if you have any questions, Fabio, about life here in the UK, please do present them and I'll do my best to answer. Yeah, I was just saying that TikTok is about to be banned. Yeah, I don't use TikTok either, but it's very popular. I love choreography. I love to see people dancing. So that's I shouldn't tell people that because it sounds a bit strange, but yeah, I do like a bit of shuffle. So I do sometimes on YouTube look for people shuffling, and I know that TikTok is an expert for that. That platform has many Chinese people shuffling. It's not the same, but yeah, I do like to watch people dancing. Shuffling is that particular type of dance where they move their feet kind of quickly. It is fun. So we're just reading about how TikTok is set to be banned. It says here a TikTok ban in the US is set to go ahead on Sunday after the Supreme Court rejected an appeal. An appeal is when you ask again, oh, please don't ban me. Yeah. So you can sometimes appeal to your wife, for example, to cook you nice food. Or if your mother says that you can't go out this weekend, you can appeal her decision. To appeal is to try to ask for a second chance, or that the thing might be reduced, whatever it is. So a TikTok ban is looming, it is coming down, and there was an appeal and it wasn't successful. So it does look like TikTok is about to be banned. And it says here what a ban looks like and how it would be enforced remains uncertain. The White House says it will leave enforcement to the Trump administration, but they've already said that Trump will find a way to reverse it. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Well, I'm waiting for your questions. This is a live English Q&A question and answer event. So if you have a question about the English speaking world, about anything related to English life and culture, like why we have two taps, why British people look intrinsically evil, feel free to ask me and I'll do my best to try and answer. I'm a bit worried about my microphone because it's showing that you don't actually have a lot of audio from me. It's not very powerful. It shows me a little dial. So please let me know you can hear me okay. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat and I will do my best to try to answer them for you. Right, I'm just doing some headline news while I'm waiting for your questions about English. A lot of it is about TikTok. Even in the local news, because many people here use TikTok. And what else do we have here? Let's see. Oh yeah, the London mayor, he's going to be investigated over Taylor Swift tickets. Apparently, the London mayor, Sadiq Khan, he accepted free Taylor Swift tickets when she was here in London, but he didn't declare them properly. So that's currently being looked at. It says here the Mayor of London will be investigated by the Greater London Authority over his acceptance of free tickets to a Taylor Swift concert. So very interesting. The Tories, that's the Conservative Party. It's an old word, Tory. It just means robber, someone who steals, but it doesn't really have a meaning when we use it politically, but historically, that's what they were called. It says here, the Tories in the London Assembly asked the monitoring officer to probe a potential breach of the rules. A breach of the rules is when you break the rules. Okay, here's a question from Fabio. He says, do you have carpets in your house? I've read somewhere that British people love carpets and houses are covered in carpets. Yes, we do, Fabio. We have carpets. Yes, absolutely. One of the reasons why we have them is because it's cold. And the other reasons why we have them is for noise insulation, because we have a lot of very old buildings which have been converted into homes. If you look at our old architecture, they were built a long time before technology, before TV, radio, and even today, I hear my neighbors moving around, as in most apartment blocks in the world, I think. Carpets help us a little bit to get rid of the noise. But we do have a fashion here in the UK for many people to simply use what we call bare floors. That means wooden floors, basically. The problem, though, is you can hear footsteps, and that's a big problem. So we do love carpets because of the cold weather, and also for the purposes of insulation. So yes, we have a lot of those. I don't know any house which doesn't have carpets. Even the houses which have bare floorboards, or wooden floors. Usually they have rugs on the top anyway because it's too cold just to have bare floors. I know my landlord, when I moved into this apartment, he told me that um, he doesn't allow wooden floors unless you live on the bottom. So if you are in an apartment block, you can have wooden floors on the bottom, but not directly above. I think the woman upstairs has wooden floors because when she's walking, she has a heavy foot. And when she's wearing shoes, I hear a lot. I mean, it's not a big problem. I think if you live in an apartment block, you hear things anyway. But that's why we love carpets. Yes. And yeah, living in an apartment block, that would be absolutely necessary because the separating floors aren't stone, they're wooden. And we even have apartment blocks made of wood. Isn't that strange? Yes. Hopefully that answers your question. Right, I was reading a story there about the Mayor of London who's going to be investigated by the Greater London Authority over his acceptance of free tickets to go to the Taylor Swift concert. We'll just read the next paragraph here. It says, a spokesperson for Sir Sadiq Khan, he recently received an award from the King, so he's now Sir Sadiq. They say any gift accepted by the mayor is declared openly and transparently. In this case, there was an administrative error, which was corrected. The mayor received 6 tickets worth about £3,000 from a private events company to watch the American Star from a box at Wembley Stadium on the 15th of August. There were 5 other members of City Hall staff with him, including 2 senior officials. And of course, the Mayor of London is elected from the Labour Party. So the Conservative, one Conservative person here is saying the Mayor had appeared to contravene. That means go against the rules, to contravene the gifts and hospitality procedure. Well, it was just an admin error, I think. And the Conservatives, the Tories, asked whether there was any reason a technical fault could have legitimately prevented the correct declaration. But they've already said it was an admin error, but it's turning into a big issue. And the headline here says, answers are desperately needed. Yeah, very interesting. There's a picture of him here. Yeah, getting back to the carpet, Fabio, that there's a few other things to say about that, I think. Of course, carpets need to be vacuumed. So it's very important that they're brushed and vacuumed, whereas on a wooden floor, you can simply maybe sweep up the dust on the floor. The other thing about carpets is if you have a little cat, like I have, he's always clawing at the carpets. And he's able to sometimes almost destroy bits of it. So it's a bit harder if you have a pet, you know. I suppose if you have a dog in an apartment block, then you would hear the dog moving around. Maybe you could tell me what it's like where you are. It's very interesting. Thank you for that question. We're just looking at the news headlines right now. And we're just looking at the news headlines around the UK today while I'm waiting for your next question. So it says here, some of these headlines are very, very depressing. Celebrities requesting cakes by a London TikTok baker. You see, TikTok is very important here. We want to revive the UK's oldest Chinatown. So those of you who've been to the UK, you'll probably know that we have Chinatown in London, right next to Soho, and they tried to move it, and they were unsuccessful. So most of our Chinese stores are around there. However, in Liverpool, there's also a Chinatown, and this is the UK's oldest Chinatown. It says here business owners in Liverpool's Chinatown, home to the oldest Chinese community in Europe, say they hope planned investments will boost the area's fortunes. That just means boost the area's luck or business. The area in the south of the city centre has been home to Liverpool's Chinese community for more than 200 years. It's famous Pei Fang. I don't know what that is. Oh, it's an arch. It's a Chinese word apparently. The famous Pei Fang on Nelson Street is the largest multiple span arch of its kind outside of China. Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. Um, those of you who know me through Italki, you might be surprised to learn that Italki is actually based in Hong Kong. Um, yeah, very interesting. And I sometimes have to deal with them. Nice people. And yeah, so they're in Liverpool. They're talking about uh, Chinatown, and they want it to be brought back to life. You know, Chinese sounds like a very interesting language, doesn't it? I've never learned any Chinese, but I do know that the people who work in the Chinese restaurants around the corner from me, they often, when I go in, they say ni hao. So I guess ni hao is a nice way to say hello, I suppose. But I've also heard that there's many, many different languages and dialects in China. So I don't know what ni hao is, if it's Cantonese, Mandarin. Okay, the Cantonese food's delicious, isn't it? Anyway, the restaurants are buffet, where you can eat as much as you want. What's this, Fabio? You're saying I have a dog? No carpet. Carpet here in Italy. Or you want to say carpets is countable. Carpets here in Italy are not common. And I have only a rug. The truth is that my wife doesn't like them. She says that they catch dust. Yes, yes. Well, it's kind of the opposite here. You know, my grandmother, for example, if you didn't have carpets, it was considered poor. You know, if you go into any Irish pub here in the UK, you may well find that it's a kind of spit and sawdust place. A spit and sawdust place is a place which doesn't have much decor. So without carpets, places were considered to be maybe without money or cheap, something like that. So uh, it's the opposite here from what you're saying. Yes. Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. Yes. Yes. Well, I was just saying about the Chinese language. It must be very hard with all those dialects. And I know in Italy they have a lot of dialects as well, don't they? So very, very interesting. Yes. Yes. Um, yeah, so I was just saying about the Chinese language. It must be very hard to learn. And speaking of learning, I returned to university on Tuesday morning early, and I have some lectures on Tuesday and on Friday. Fridays I don't work, so it's very interesting, and I'll be looking forward to those as well from next week. You know, it's very hard, I think, studying sometimes because these days, you know, lecturers, especially university lecturers, they keep this really weird distance. It's like English examiners. I don't know if you've ever done the IELTS or any of the exams like that, but what happens is the examiners, they seem very aloof, very distant and far away. They don't smile. You can't read their emotions. I think that's an English thing anyway, if I'm completely honest, you know. A lot of English teachers are like that as well. You know, it's kind of like, I'm telling you nothing until you pay me. I know some teachers are like that on trial lessons. It's all about, okay, yeah, this is what we could do, but I'm not telling you how to do that now until you book a lesson. I mean, honestly, it's like English is some big secret. Well, of course, it's not like that at all. You know, I'm happy to tell people whatever they want to know, which is why I'm here now So if you do have any questions, please do send them over. And if you're watching this on repeat, send them over anyway. I'll do my best to try to answer any questions that you have. But yeah, I really feel that, from my university teachers, that there isn't a lot of warmth there. They're there to impart information, and well, it's helped me a lot to understand their ways, but it's also helped me to remind myself not to be like that. Yeah, I'm a very open, warm person. I don't believe in hiding information just for the glorious pound. It's a bit strange. I don't really understand that. I know some teachers I've booked trial lessons with. They've been a little bit like that. Like the languages I've learned over the years. You book a lesson with a teacher, and they start telling you, yeah, well, we could do this in the future. We could do that, and I'm thinking, well, show me exactly what that looks like. Don't keep me hanging in suspense. But everyone's different, I suppose. Everyone has their way. Anyway, we're here today with a Q&A with any questions you might have about English language, English life, and English culture. So far, I think, Fabio, there's just you and I. So if there's any points of grammar you want me to go over, or if there's anything else, please let me know and we'll make a start and do it. If not, we'll probably read something, and in the meantime, there's something I can't edit my voice on a live Q&A. Let's go over another news story then, okay? So it says here, very depressing stories, really depressing. I knew I was in so much pain, says somebody here. Sacking and final warnings over police WhatsApp chat. Let's have a look at that one. That looks quite interesting. Sacking and final warnings over police WhatsApp chat. Right, let's read through this. A police officer has been sacked, that just means fired, and others were handed final warnings over messages posted in a work WhatsApp group. A disciplinary hearing into 6 serving and former Dorset police officers previously found 4 committed gross misconduct and 2 committed misconduct. Gross misconduct means more serious. Okay. It says here the officers were all part of a team created to tackle drug supplies through county lines, operations, and help safeguard victims of cuckooing. I'll tell you what that is in a minute. If you're just joining us, my name's Joseph, and I'm here to answer any questions you have about the English language, grammar, vocabulary, or about the English life. If you have any questions about why we do things the way we do, send them over in the chat, and I'll do my best to try to answer them for you. And in the meantime, we're reading some news stories, and it looks like a police officer is in big trouble because they've been sharing information in WhatsApp. And just in the final sentence I read there, it says that the police help people, they help victims of cuckooing. Cuckoo is the bird, that's the one which takes other birds' nests. It arrives, it kicks the bird out, and it makes the nest theirs. Okay, that's a cuckoo. So cuckooing in English is when somebody moves into your house and you can't get rid of them. We've had a number of incidents like this. Our older people live alone, and you have bad neighbors who maybe can't pay their bills. They knock on your door, they make an excuse to get in, and then they don't leave. And we have instances where many of our old people are forced to share their property with someone that they don't know. And this is a very serious thing, and please take it very seriously. It is called cuckooing, because that's what the cuckoo bird does. Right, a question here. What about the prefix miss, as in misunderstand, misprint, misread? Can I add it to any verb to express the idea that something is wrong? You can't add it to any verb. Some verbs don't take it. For example, miss sleep. That sounds like the name of a really bad beauty queen from 1987. So some verbs don't accept miss. Others do. But in general, yes, you can add miss to the beginning of something to show that it was a mistake. And your examples are very good. Misprint, misread. But misprint is actually a noun. There was a misprint in the newspaper, for example. So misunderstand would be a verb, misprint would be a noun, and misread is a verb. So yeah, you can add them to some, but not all. You have to be careful with that. Well, we're here today to answer any questions you have about English life, English grammar, English language, English culture, whatever you want to ask me, I'm going to try to answer them. Okay, so we currently have 3 viewers, so please do put your questions in the chat, and I'll do my best to get you an answer, even if it's something that I don't know. And in the meantime, we're going to read through some news stories as well, just so you know what's happening here in the UK. And if you have any questions about life here, grammar, vocabulary, how we live, why we have 2 taps instead of 1, that's a really weird thing. Just please put them in the chat. Right, so let's continue. We're currently going through some news stories. The BBC site shows news stories for the different parts of the UK separately. So we've read some English news stories. So now we're going to read some Scottish ones. It says here that a Scottish nurse helped save a child with a bullet in the child's neck. I don't quite know why that's a story, because I thought that would be the nurse's job. But it says here, a Scottish nurse has described the moment he helped save the life. Oh, I see, he's in Gaza. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought he was local. It says, a Scottish nurse has described the moment he helped save the life of a 3-year-old Palestinian girl after a bullet ricocheted through her mother's body. Oh, that's not very, very good, is it? Ricochet is when it bounces. That's a horrible story. Let me move on to something just as depressing, but maybe a little bit more cheerful. Let's see. Oh, here's a nice one. This is a search for missing fragments from the Stone of Destiny. You'll like this story. Let me explain what the Stone of Destiny is. You know that in the old days, Scotland and England had 2 sets of royal families. I mean, when I say 2 sets, there was one royal family in England and one royal family in Scotland. And the Scottish royal family, they had this special stone. And all of the royals, when they received the crown, they had to sit on this stone. The stone was used, and it became known as the Stone of Destiny. Now, I don't quite know what they did with it, okay? Whether they sat on it or the crown was on it, but it was always there when the Scottish royal family were crowned. But when the 2 countries joined together, which I think was the 17th century, I think. That stone was moved to Westminster because people were then crowned as kings and queens of the UK. So what happened was they actually moved that stone to Westminster in London, and then it was stolen, and it ended up years later back in Scotland, and now it's split in half, and it's I think kept in a special case, and it says here there's a search underway for missing fragments. That means missing little bits because the stone at one point was one complete stone. Let's see what it says. A search is underway to trace up to 30 missing fragments or missing bits of the Stone of Destiny, the ancient coronation stone of Scottish kings. The pieces were separated from the artifact. That just means from the main historical thing. In this case, it's the stone, when it was secretly repaired following its famous removal from Westminster Abbey in 1950 by nationalists. Interesting, it says following its famous removal. Well, it was stolen, as far as I know. It says here there's 34 bits of it missing, and they want to try to find those bits. I don't think they will. I mean, if you steal a stone and it gets damaged in transit, I'm sure nobody kept it. Nobody kept those little bits of stone. Be a bit strange that. It says here the 152 kilograms. Oh, I'm not good with the metric system. I don't know what that is. The 152 kilogram sandstone block split into two parts during the famous Christmas Day raid in 1950, when 4 independence students removed it from Westminster Abbey and took it back to Scotland. And then they have a big picture of it here as well. So basically, the Stone of Destiny, as I was saying a moment ago, is the stone that's used to crown Scottish kings. When Scotland and England created the UK, it was taken to England, then stolen by Scottish people, and it split. So there's 34 bits of it missing, and they're trying to find them. So that's in the news today as well. Right, if you're just joining us, my name is Joseph. I'm an English teacher, and I'd love to hear your questions about the English language, also about English life and culture. So if you have a question for me about why people do things the way we do, please send me a message on the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them here. Your question can be about anything: grammar, life, why we have 2 taps in the kitchen, why we always look intrinsically evil when we speak. I don't know, but feel free to ask me anything that you would like to ask. I'm here waiting for your questions. And in the meantime, we are going through some news stories from the UK over the last few days, and we're reading those. We did one a minute ago all about Chinatown, but not the one in Liverpool, not the one in London, the one in Liverpool, which they're trying to spruce up a bit. We use the phrase to spruce up when we are saying that something needs a bit of a polish to make it look better, to spruce it up. Fabio, thank you for your question. You're saying, have you ever been to Loch Ness? Well, it's not actually Loch Ness. It's pronounced like this: Loch Ness. It's 2 separate words. Loch Ness. And I should have capitalized the first 2 letters. No, I don't believe in monsters. No. Interestingly enough, though, Fabio, something you might like to know is that in the old days, every lake had a monster, not just Loch Ness. Everyone had. It was a way for um, it was a way for parents to tell the kids, "Oh, stay away from the water. The monster will get you." But before Christianity came, we did actually believe that there were monsters in our lakes. People were very interested in sea monsters, and yeah, we had a few of those. Not all of them were nice. I mean, the one in Loch Ness is very, very famous because it's supposedly the monster had its photograph taken. There's a few dubious photos from around the turn of the century. I mean, the last century, the early 1900s, which seemed to show a monster. So, for that reason, Loch Ness became very, very famous. Uh, our ancestors also believed in the monsters being there. Um, the monsters in the Scottish lakes were called kelpies, which is an old Scottish word, but we had so many of them. I mean, there's another one called the water horse. Uh, that's basically a half man, half horse. He's a horse, but he can turn himself into a man, and he's there to attract the young ladies. And if they touch him, their hand will get stuck, and he will drag them away and drown them in the water. There are female versions of that, but they're not like the horoscope sign. It's not like a centaur, half man, half horse. It's a shapeshifter. But in Loch Ness, it seems to be some kind of prehistoric creature they're looking for. It's not actually a mythological creature. I don't know why that is. I think it's because of those old pictures that came out. It made Loch Ness look like it was holding some kind of very, very old monster, like the kind you see in the movies, you know. So that is very, very famous in Loch Ness. But it doesn't help that Loch Ness is the deepest lake in Scotland, so it's very hard to actually investigate it. But you know, Americans, they love this kind of thing. They're spending a fortune sending submarines and things down there. Spending a fortune just means spending a lot of money. It's an idiom. Right. Fabio, you're saying here, even though I don't believe in monsters, I would go to Loch Ness because I think the atmosphere would be really special. Really cold. That's for sure. Freezing. I've never been. Very hard to get to by public transport. You would need to either drive there or you could go in one of these tours that passes by Loch Ness. But yeah, there's I think a Japanese guy lives there permanently, hoping to see the monster. He just sits there, staring at the lake all day, and yeah, it attracts many, many Americans, as you can imagine. You're saying here that you love visiting old castles, even though you know there's no ghosts inside. Yes, yeah, me too. I love visiting old castles, and if you come here, there's plenty to choose from. There's the rich ones that used to be owned by the royals. You can have a look around those. Some of them still are royal palaces, and there's others that are in ruins, just lying in fields. Some of them are still quite safe to go to. And I can share some photos of some of the old monasteries here as well, which don't have roofs on them anymore. The castles are beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, the northern part of the UK, Scotland in general, has loads of ghost stories. We are full of myths and legends about fairies, witches, all kinds of things. But you know, it's funny because English fairies are these very small beings like Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, you know, the little fairy from the Peter Pan story. In English literature, fairies are depicted as being very, very small, but yet in Scotland, fairies are big creatures. It is said that you could sit in on the knees of a fairy, and he or she would still be above you. They're huge, so they're not the kind of people that you want to meet on a dark night. Very interesting. Oh, hi, Katerina. How are you today? You're in Sweden, aren't you? Maybe you could tell us something about fairies in the north. I'm sure they're not just tiny little beings as well. I have a feeling that fairies in Sweden are probably huge as they are in Scotland. What's this? Have you ever attended fox hunting? I know that it is now forbidden. It is forbidden, but it still happens. It happens illegally, and farmers turn a blind eye when it happens. They turn a blind eye, meaning they ignore it because they want rid of the foxes. So they tend not to take any action when a fox hunt is taking place. Oh, here's someone else. Iman. Hello, Iman. Any questions for me? Hello to you too. Tell us where you're from. Be very interesting to see. Fox hunting. I don't know if Britain's the only place where we have those. But yeah, they've been banned for quite some time now, prohibited. But our royals loved it. It was a royal sport, very much an aristocratic sport. So I'm sure it does still happen. I've never personally attended one. I mean, I know I'm vegetarian, but I really don't care about animals. I just don't want to eat them. That's all. Oh, Katarina from Sweden. I'm not very familiar with fairies. I've always thought of fairies like tiny and luminescent. Yeah, I think you spelled that right, Katarina. Yeah, in England they're like that as well. It's only in Scotland that they're bullies. They're big people. Um, and if they come and ask you for work, they're very, very good workers, but you have to pay them well. If you don't, they will beat you. And they will beat you and carry you away and do horrible things to you. There's a very famous story of one Scottish fairy who hated someone so much that she used to follow him around. And he eventually immigrated to America. And he got off the boat thinking, oh, I finally got away from that fairy woman. And she was there waiting for him. Of course, it all depends on your belief in these things. But a very interesting story, yes. Yeah, I don't know how we got on to mythology. Then we went on to fox hunting, probably because of the questions here. But I've never been to a fox hunting event, but they do definitely still happen. That's for sure. Yes. Any other questions? Please do send them over. I'm here to try to answer your questions today about English people, English life, English culture, English language. Anything you want to ask me about grammar as well, anything related to vocabulary, I'll do my best to answer. This is your big moment. It is true that British people are known for being a little bit strange, especially with the amount that we drink. So any questions that you have, please do send them over. And we're also reading some news. We've done some English news. The BBC website shows you English news, Scottish news, Welsh news separately. So we're going to move on and do another news story. So what's this? Let me see. There was something there about the king just a moment ago. So let me see if I can find that story. Okay, it's a video clip, so I can't share it with you. But basically, the king is up here, and he went to visit a certain place, a community food bank. The royal family own a lot of property around the UK, but they also have their own palaces. So they're often here, And when they are, they visit the locals and they do whatever it is that royals do. I'm afraid I'm not much of a royalist, but they do pop up here from time to time. Right, we'll move on. We're going to look at some news stories in Wales. That's the western part of the UK. Um, they're having issues with water, it seems. Thousands face a 2-day wait for water as a main pipe is being fixed. It says here thousands of homes in Wales are said to be without water for another 2 days, despite a burst water pipe that caused widespread disruption being fixed. So they fixed the problem, but they're still not getting the water. Our water companies are all private, they're not owned by the government. It says here Welsh Water said the pipe, which is in a part of Wales called Conwy County, it split on Wednesday. It'd been repaired, but the water would not be fully restored for up to 48 hours. There we are. Very interesting. Okay, Fabio, what are you saying here? I was thinking that the most famous British comedian, at least in Italy, the most famous British comedians, Mr. Bean and Benny Hill, and they both became famous without saying a single word. Yeah, that's certainly true, Fabio. Yes, that's certainly true. Mr. Bean and Benny Hill are both very famous. I never liked Mr. Bean. I don't know why. I just thought he was really creepy. I didn't like him at all. I couldn't get into the humor. But British humor is a little bit strange anyway. I know that around the world everyone loves it, but oh no, no. I mean, I do like to watch Are You Being Served? I don't know if you've seen that one. It's kind of like Benny Hill, if you know who, um, well, of course, you know who Benny Hill is. You've mentioned him here. Benny Hill was a very famous comedian. He lived by the River Thames in London, and around 1990, when all of our TV channels changed, he didn't have much of a career after that. He lost his TV show, and then he died without having any family some years later. Very sad. Very sad. They say that he walked around alone um, in his home, which was near Teddington, near the TV studios. But yeah, Benny Hill was very famous. We have we have another TV show. Try to find it. It's called Are You Being Served? And it has all of the toilet humor, which British or English comedy is very famous for. You might like that. Are You Being Served? If you like Benny Hill, I'm sure you would love Are You Being Served? It was a large department store. And in that large department store, you had the gents department and the women's department. And they were always talking to each other. It's very, very funny. Do try to find it. I think it's all on YouTube these days. It says here, please write the name of the show. Yeah, okay. Are You Being Served? Yeah, it's a very famous British comedy. Iman is saying, I've just joined the chat. Would you please tell me what the topic is? Yes, of course. This is an open live question and answer event. So if you have any questions related to English, the language, or the culture, please give them to me and I'll try and answer. Okay, so if you're studying English and you have a question about grammar, vocabulary, tell me. Also, if you're curious about why British people do things the way they are, then ask me and I'll try to answer. Or you're an English teacher, Iman. Oh, lovely. Where are you based? Are you local or are you far away in some beautiful country somewhere? Katerina is saying you like Jimmy Carr, Michael McIntyre, Ricky Gervais. I don't know who those people are. I don't really like English humor, or I should say, I don't like modern English humor. Um, Older English humor I much prefer. From the 70s and 80s. Iman, oh, you're originally from Iran. Oh, how lovely. Very nice. You probably know, Iman, that I've been learning Farsi for a while. And it's a beautiful language and a really beautiful country. Um, you're saying you have a bachelor degree in English language literature. Oh, really? Oh, wow. Good for you. Excellent. The rest of us are trying to escape from the UK, and you you've been studying English to such a degree that you should be here, or maybe you are here already. I don't know. A bachelor degree, yeah, that's our main degree. When you leave school. Well, this is interesting. Let me explain how it works. You leave school here, and if you're in England, you go to college, and then you go to university to study for a BA. If you're in the northern part of the UK, you leave school and you go directly to university. So we do have colleges in Scotland as well, but you can do those extra few years in school and then go directly to university. That's how it works. Um, so it depends where you are. It's not all the same around the UK. And then Iman tells us, in addition, I have an MA degree in English teaching. Oh, really? Oh, lovely. Very nice. Well, if you hang around here, who knows? Maybe you can get some students. Lovely to meet you, Iman. Do you have any questions for me about English people? I mean, we're a bit strange, aren't we? Huh? I hear this a lot, that English people are really nice, beautiful language, but we are just a little bit odd. English literature is really popular in Iran. Yeah, I suppose it would be. Do you know, next week, something you'll be interested in, I'll be here talking to another British guy, but the British guy is a little bit different from me, although he's one of my closest friends. In fact, he probably is my best friend. His name is Nasser. We're going to record the podcast tomorrow night. And his parents were from Pakistan. But he's just as British as I am. There's no difference between us. We went to school here. He speaks with the perfect English accent, just as I do. But I wanted him on this podcast just to let you all know just how diverse Britain is, because some of you are thinking that we just, are white people who drink tea at 5 p.m. And it's not like that at all. I think Nasser's parents were from Pakistan, in the same way as my grandmothers were from Ireland. I think they faced a lot of discrimination when they first moved to the UK. In fact, discrimination is kind of a big deal here. For everyone, not just for people who look a bit different. So we'll be talking to him. You'll hear a podcast and a chat with him next week. Um, Katerina, ha ha ha, I love modern English humor. Really? Yeah, I just didn't get it. I just didn't understand it. I mean, I do love the old traditional toilet humor. There's a lot of that on British TV. I was telling somebody else, Fabio, I think it was, a moment ago, about Are You Being Served? For those of you who like London, right at Piccadilly Circus, when I was a boy, there was a massive department store, one of these big ones with like 10 floors, and they're always very posh, Hello. Like Selfridges or Harrods. And when I was a boy, you couldn't go into Selfridges or Harrods if you were wearing jeans. You had to be wearing a suit. You had to be rich, basically. So of course, I never got into Selfridges and Harrods when I was a boy. Very sad, isn't it, to think back? I remember with my grandparents, they wanted to go and see what it was like, and they got to the door, and the doorman said, "Sorry, you're not dressed appropriately." Like going to a nightclub. Um, those days have changed. Iman, you're saying here You've always been exposed with American English. Oh, never mind. I'm sure you'll recover. And I think I'm pretty weak at understanding British English. I can understand you very well right now, but when it comes to British English, you're heartbroken. Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, Iman, as I'm always saying, I don't know if you know this, but up until 1990 on the media, you had to speak Queen's English. Hell yeah. Yeah, it's very nice. Very nice. But since then, regional accents are encouraged and allowed, especially these days. A lot of the news reporters don't speak well. I was watching the weather a few weeks ago, the Welsh guy. I couldn't understand the words he was saying. And I think, why bother? You know, why would you put someone like that on TV if they can't speak well? So yes, British English can be very difficult. The days of received pronunciation on the media have gone. But still, if you are interested, try listening to LBC. It's a 24-hour commercial radio station. They speak very well. And it's a telephone call-in 24-hour program thing that they do. So you'll hear a lot of our regional accents on there. Also, BBC Radio 4, very polite. Hello, BBC Radio 4, yes. It's a good one. And BBC Radio 5 is also speech, but it's more informal. So if you download the BBC Sounds app, you should be able. Let's see, is it true that even the British have problem understanding adult? What's adult? Adult? No idea what that is. Is it true that even the British have problem understanding adult? Help me out, Iman, or anyone else that knows. Oh, maybe you mean Adele. Is it Adele, the singer? I think you spelled it wrong. Adele. Yeah, I've listened to some of her stuff. I think in singing I understand, but when she does interviews, yeah, she speaks sometimes in a very slang kind of way. So yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, we do sometimes have problems with people like that. Yes, yeah. Some people want to retain their accents to make it a point of their identity. Um, do you know? Let me tell you a story. In the old days, when people emigrated to the UK, we were very, very industrial. And what happened was you would come to the UK, you would try to find work, you would go to the local factory, and of course, everyone would be completely local. And they would tell you, okay, well, what's your name? They would ask. And you could answer something like, oh, my name is, let's say, Mohammed Akbar. Okay. And they would say, what? Mohammed? Oh, we're not having any of that here. Let's just call you John Smith, local name. The next thing you know, you're called John Smith. Your name is changed to John Smith. And then you have no choice except to fit in, to try to talk the way they do. Now, that was 60, 70, 80 years ago. Um, my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation. But if you come to the UK now, people say, what's your name? And if you say, for example, Iman, they'll say, oh, how lovely. Oh, very nice. You're very welcome. And in the background, everyone's thinking, Iman, how do I say that? Oh, I'll look it up on YouTube. Iman. Okay, fine. So it's a very different world we live in these days. So it's almost like the UK is breaking up into different bits, and every bit is very proud of their accent now. So the concept of learning English and speaking received pronunciation to show your education, that's beginning to disappear now, which is sad. But yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting. I think it may have been on the last podcast or one of my podcasts recently. I was telling the story about a friend of mine, and when I was a boy, we were playing football together, myself and this friend. And my mother asked him, "How's your father?" And he said, "Fine." And my mother said, "Yes, I remember when he came from Poland. But this boy had a very Scottish name." And they explained to me that how in the old days, when people immigrated to the UK, they often changed their name or they wanted to forget their identity. Very interesting, isn't it? But a different world now we're living in, a very different world. Well, I hope everything is well for you in Iran, Iman. I know that everywhere in the world is going through something. We're all struggling a bit with politics, but I hope things in your neck of the woods, it just means your part of the world, are going very, very well, or at least okay anyway. Right, so yes, any other questions anybody has for me about English language, English life, English culture? If you have any questions, send them over. I'll do my best to try to answer them. And in the meantime, I'm going to just read another news story. We'll stay on here maybe for another 15, 20 minutes if you have time. And let's see. So we were reading a story from Wales a moment ago. Yes. So let's see what we have here. Okay, this is another Welsh story. A student finds a bride's unseen 1960s wedding video. Yeah, so basically, a student has uncovered a wedding video from the 60s. The woman who's getting married, we call her the bride. And the man who's getting married, we call him the groom. A grandmother said she was blown away. That just means, excited. After viewing previously unseen clips from her wedding almost 60 years ago, found by a film student in an antiques shop. Yeah, my parents' wedding was recorded, but I don't know whatever happened to that recording. Be nice to find, wouldn't it? Let's see. Fabio's asking here, why do you say send it over, like send questions over? What's the difference between send and send over? A very good question, Fabio. A very good question. Let me just take some water and then I'll answer it for you. Yeah, so send over is a phrasal verb. And of course, we have many of those and we use them in English. So I could just say, yeah, send your questions. Yeah. But because we are at a distance, to send over your questions, I suppose in the old days, if you're on the phone, you could tell someone, yes, send it over by post, and then that became send over by email, maybe by pigeon at some point in history, I don't know. But yeah, we always say send over if something is coming electronically. Yet send in is the same. Send in and send over are probably synonyms of each other, but send in used to be used when, for example, you had a TV show and it wasn't live. They were just saying, send in your questions, and you had to write them down, post them in to the studio. I suppose send overs kind of replaced send in because now we're using electronic means. So over, I suppose, works better, I guess. Yeah, send over. I haven't had send in a while, but I would use it if this wasn't live, maybe. I would say send in your questions. But it kind of implies postage. It sounds like postage. I'm here, you're there. Send them in. Go and buy a envelope and send them to me, So send over works better, at least these days. Yes. Phrasal verbs, they're always hard, aren't they? Actually, did you know that phrasal verbs are often misunderstood around the English-speaking world. They can be very regional, phrasal verbs. They're problematic. Uh, I've heard a few recently. One of the ones I remember is backup, which in American English is to reverse your car, but in British English, it's what I do with my computer at night time. Although people now here are starting to use those kinds of phrasal verbs as well. Not just phrasal verbs, idioms as well. I mean, Americans say if their company is going bankrupt, they say they're going south. That was a new one for me. Yeah, the first time I heard that was on a TV show when the man said he was going south. I thought he was moving to South America. But no, going bankrupt. We don't have that here. So phrasal verbs and idioms can be a little bit tricky when you're learning a language, which is why you have to focus in on one area. It helps with your identity as well. If you feel you love London, try to focus more on the media from London, and that'll help you a lot when you encounter American media and you don't know it. It's not because your English is bad, it's simply because it's not where you identify with. You know, when I hear an American idiom that I don't know, I don't say, oh, my English is terrible, I have to study. I say, well, they obviously speak differently, you know. So yeah, don't punish yourself over that. But yeah, that's send over and send in. Yeah, we're all kind of dominated by American media right now. They do speak very differently from us, so it's really important that you drill down into a particular area from the UK that you like. Any other questions, send them over. And yeah, I was just starting to read this story about this video. Well, I guess it's not even video, it's film that they found in an antique shop. It says here, a grandmother said she's been blown away after viewing previously unseen film from her wedding. They were married in 1966, and it's recently been uncovered. She says it's unbelievable that they were able to see that. It's in color as well, which is a bit strange. I have my parents' wedding photos. No one ever smiles in photos from those days, do they? What's this? What should we do about shy students in a class? I've got a student who's really shy, and I think she is afraid of speaking and making mistakes. How can I help her out? How can I overcome this problem with my students? Okay, so the question is, if you have a classroom full of students and one is really, really shy and doesn't want to speak, how do you help her? Well, I think what I would do is I would create a safe environment. So create a game which is completely inclusive. And that way she can see everyone taking a turn and she has to also. And when she hears other people making mistakes, she won't be so nervous about her making a mistake. And then she knows she's going to get asked as well, because letting her remain silent is never a good idea, you know. So yeah, inclusive games. The other thing you could do is you could partner them up. So you could put her with somebody else that likes to talk, and hopefully that would make her feel more able to contribute. You also could have people helping you in the class. You could force her to be the one that looks after the whiteboard, give her jobs to do, you know, to make sure that her other skills are being utilized. What I do in group classes sometimes, if they're face to face in the classroom, is I try to break the atmosphere a little bit by carrying a tennis ball. and it keeps everyone awake because I bounce it and everyone's looking at this ball. Because in a class, sometimes people are looking into the distance and they're not paying attention. So I bounce this ball and sometimes throw it off the back wall. And everyone is, what's he going to do with that ball next? And if someone, isn't paying attention, I can say, hey, catch the ball and throw it at them. Um, it helps people to pay attention more as well. So these kind of things are really good. But if this girl is really, really shy, yeah, bring her out by ensuring that she contributes in uh, group classes or in the class as a whole. Create an environment where everyone has to speak in some kind of chain. If she really doesn't have a voice and she needs some personal help, get her to shadow, because when you hear and repeat an English voice, it gives you power. And she can do that at home, and then that might help her. But once she does it a few times, she'll be fine. But I suppose there's also cultural considerations. I don't know if, as adults, men and women in your country are educated together separately. I know that um, as children, you guys are educated separately. Boys go to one class, women go to another. I don't know how that works. It used to be like that here as well. In fact, when I was at school, I remember the girls entered one entrance and the boys entered via the other. I mean, we were in mixed classes, but yeah, we had separate entrances. Um, they study together. They're in this. Oh, great! Oh, wonderful, excellent. That's in private language schools. They study together, is it? Because I know in the education system as kids they don't. But that's really good that they can study together. Ah, wonderful. Boys and girls study together. Great. Yeah, man, I would try to help her a little bit, by creating that safe environment with some games. I think that would be good. Yes. Right. How are we doing for time? Okay, so we're at 1 hour, 12 minutes. Okay, so we'll go for another 5 minutes or so, and then we'll stop. So, Iman, Fabio, anything else you'd like to ask? Oh, Iman, I'm really happy to help. Yes. So, anything else? Remember, subscribe to this channel, like it as well. Go to my website, teacherjoseph.com. You can learn loads more about me. There's 1,000 podcasts on Spotify and YouTube as well. And there's even more video clips than that around. So you have plenty of material to get to know me with. What else do we have here? Let's see. I really, really like to have the chance to study in England. Okay, so are you saying there, I would really like to have the chance? And Fabio, you're saying I'm shy. For this reason, I struggle with English. Oh, you're not shy, Fabio. We have great conversations when we speak. I would really like to have the chance to study in England. Hey, Iman, do you know why we say I would like? Because it's part of a conditional. For example, would you like a cup of tea? The whole sentence is, would you like a cup of tea if I asked you what you wanted? And then you say, yes, I would like a cup of tea if you asked me what I wanted. Okay, tea? Yes. It's a really weird, polite thing and conditionals. Yeah, I think many people would like to have the chance to study in England. It's not that hard, except it's very, very expensive to get here. But it is doable. But for immigration purposes, I mean, right now it's just crazy. Voting for Brexit, whose idea was that to separate us? I loved traveling into Europe, and hopefully I still will. yeah, Fabio, shyness is a big thing, for everyone. But yeah, don't be shy with me or with other English speakers, because we're so used to talking to non-natives that it's um, so natural for us. We don't hear that you're not native. It's only if you say, I don't understand, that we would think, what? Oh, sorry. So you don't have to be shy with us. Um, Iman, you're saying you're keeping your fingers crossed. Yeah, there's many people like you. Um, I talk to a lot of different people from different countries. I talk to a lot of Iranians as well. I hear some really tragic stories. I know Iran is like one big airport. You're all leaving to go to other places. But you never know. You might end up here. If you have an MA in English, it sounds like here would be a good place to go or to come to. So, yeah, very good. Very good. Um, isn't it funny? People learning English for all different reasons. Some for immigration, some just to have a change. Um, yeah, it never ceases to surprise me because I grew up in an English environment. So for me, I take English for granted. I don't think of it as something special, But very interesting, Iman. Very interesting. Yeah, and thanks to you, Fabio. Um, Katerina dropped in as well. Some people have came and went, but I hope you found something of use today. I hope this has been really helpful. Please do keep in touch, Iman. My contact details are on my website, teacherjoseph.com, if you need anything. And Fabio, I'm sure I'll be catching up with you again soon. So, any final questions that you guys would like to ask? In my country, more than 85% of people are learning English for moving. Yeah, meanwhile, we're all learning Farsi, trying to get away from the UK. It's funny, isn't it? Did you know that when the Russia-Ukraine war started, there was a massive number of English people started to learn Russian? Um, it's really strange, isn't it? We always do that. Whenever a war breaks out, we start to learn the language to try to understand more, because a lot of us are ashamed to be British. I know you all love it, but for us, many of us don't really appreciate being British. I never tell people I'm British when I go on holiday. If they're lucky, they might find out. Of course, if I get into trouble, I'll run to the closest British embassy with my passport. But usually I begin with, well, my grandparents were Irish, my grandmothers were Irish. I don't like telling people that I'm British. I'm very ashamed of some of the things that we've done and how we behave when we go on holiday. That's not very nice. We've all seen British people, you know, diving into the local fountain or jumping off a hotel balcony. It's a bit crazy why they do that. But anyway, well, 85%. Yeah, you're not alone there, Iman. Many, many people around the world are leaving. Right, let's wrap it up then, if there's no more questions. So, lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for coming. Subscribe and like if you haven't done so already. And tell your friends that I'm going to be live at least once a week in the future. So you can have your questions ready for me about life, culture, or language. Thanks, Iman. I'm glad that you learned a lot. It'll appear on YouTube shortly under the live section, so you can go back and revisit the fun if you want. Okay, I'll see you guys soon. Take care and let's talk. I'll end our stream now. Bye bye. Bye.